Hi everybody, welcome to the Encrypted Angels channel. It's Mia, surprise! And today I wanted to talk to you guys about the ages in DID. So why are different altars different ages? And then also I wanted to talk to you about my experiences of being an age slider and what that means. I'm only talking about from our experiences and what we've learned along the way through therapy and just stuff. So why are different altars different ages? Well, there's a lot of different ideas about why that could be. So some theories is because that might have been when trauma happened at that age, and so when that altered state of consciousness formed, they stayed at that age and they may stay that age forever. So that's one idea. But then sometimes you might have alters that are a lot older than what the body is. So like for example, Ash in our system, he's always been in his early 30s. So when we were in our younger years, then he was always older than us. But now that we're in our 40s, he's younger than the body age. I shouldn't say all of us when I just meant the body age. And so why was he older? The idea behind that is because that is what felt safest and what was needed in our system at the time to help us through whatever was going on. So when Ash's state of consciousness formed, there are some people in a system that might consider themselves ageless. So what does that mean? That could mean a couple of different things. Maybe they identify as a very, very old spirit, sometimes maybe centuries old, 2,000-3,000 years old, even like 200-300 years old, or even 1,000 or plus years old, or even more. Some people who identify as ageless, it's because there's no age in particular that they really identify as. Not their personality and who they are may not change necessarily, but they just choose not to really identify as any particular age. That's true in the case of our Marius. So we have a person in our system named Marius, and he's never claimed an age, so he considers himself ageless. If you were to look at Marius, he looks like a man that would be maybe in his early to mid 30s. So if you were to look at him and try to put an age on him, but he doesn't really feel like he's 30, but he doesn't feel like he's older, but he doesn't feel like he's younger. He doesn't really know how to identify as age-wise, so he just chooses not to. And that could be the case. So while some people who may consider themselves ageless might be hundreds or even thousands of years old, some people in a system that may not be the case. They just choose not to choose any particular age. Okay, if you're with me so far, please don't forget to subscribe and like and hit the notification bell so you guys know when we post our next video. Also, if you would like, you can follow us on Instagram. It's the same name, Encrypted Angels. So, okay. Alright, so on with more. Now I wanted to talk about alters who do age in the body. And we've experienced this in a couple of different ways. So Dax in our system, who is also our host now, Dax and his twin brother Dex, when they were first discovered in our system, they were really little. They were 6 years old. And over the years, they slowly aged up, much like people do. But, like in real life, I mean, like people do in real life. And so Dax has often said it's interesting because if he thinks back on childhood, there's kind of like two childhoods. Because there's the body's childhood that we had that happened in the outside world, but then Dax and Dex also have their childhood of growing up inside of the system. And they too don't identify as any particular one age. Like, they've always identified like within a certain group of ages. So when they were 6-ish, I say 6, but at that time they would have said that they're, I don't know, I'm between 6 and 9. And then a couple of years later, they just felt older. So they said, I don't know, we're somewhere between 9 and 12. And then a couple years later, they were like, yeah, we're somewhere between 14 and 16, and so on and so forth. So now Dax and Dex, they say they're somewhere in their early to mid 20s. So that's how old they identify now. So that's another way that an alter may be in a system. Some alters might age much like that, much as what like is reflected. That. Now I want to talk about another experience one of our alters had. Her name is Sarah. She's my best friend inside. And for the very longest time, Sarah has been about 5 years old inside of our system. Well, about 6 or 7 years ago, one night she went to sleep and she was 5. The next day she woke up and her body inside was 16. She didn't know what happened, and this was very difficult for her. She was very upset by it and very distressed. And it took a lot of talking to our therapist, as well as a lot of support from us on the inside, telling her that she's fine. It doesn't mean that she has to be any different or change anything about who she is or how she feels. Because she felt that because she suddenly went to 16 years old, that maybe she wasn't supposed to play with toys anymore, or play with dolls, or have stuffed animals. And we told her, no, that's totally fine. Even there's adults that have stuffed animals and things. And even if there weren't, I don't care, it's still okay. So for us to have stuffed animals if we want them. And soft blankets and all those kind of things, and toys to play with, and coloring books to color in, that it's okay to still want to do all of those things. What I've been trying to say is that she's adjusted really well now that it's been quite a few years, and she's very comfortable in her 16-year-old body, and she still loves stuffed animals, she still loves to color, and she still loves being who she is, regardless of what age she identifies as. Next, I want to talk about age sliders. So that's the bracket that I'm in. So what is an age slider? Well, it's pretty much as it sounds. An age slider is a person who goes from one age to another age. For example, for me, I slide from age 6 to 16 years old. And I could be any age anywhere in between. So that's what it is for me. Now there can be some triggers to cause a different age in how I feel at the time and how I'm acting or behaving. And so when I say triggers, I mean positive triggers. So for example, if Dax pulls out a coloring book and starts to color, then I might come out and enjoy coloring. Or if we put in a Disney movie or something, or another cartoon, then I might come out and watch it because I really love watching those kind of things. So that's what I mean by positive triggers. So it could also be certain games. certain games might pull my attraction and want to come out to the front to enjoy them. Now, depending on the activity that I'm doing, that activity I may slide in a different age group than what I started as. So say if I come into the body, and at the time that I come into the body, I'm around 16 years old. And then during that time, I slide down to a younger age, like 8 or 9 years old. So, and then I might slide down to even younger, being 6. And then I might jump back to 12, and then back to 16, or anywhere in between, 14, 12, 13, 10 and a half, any age really in between there. Now at the time, I don't know, or I'm not aware when I'm doing it. So I don't know if that's the case for other people or not, but it is the case for me. So I could easily slide down into a younger state and not be consciously aware that I'm at that younger state. In fact, I think I've kind of age slided a little bit just doing this video back and forth. It's sort of, for me, it sort of feel, I can't really tell. Other people on the outside can tell a lot better than I can. But I can tell a feeling in my head sometimes. Like, it's almost like there's a little bit of a foggier space in my head, and it's harder to pull out the thoughts that I really want to say or communicate. So there's more difficulty in my processing, and there's more difficulty in my speech. So sometimes my words might become more simpler, less complex. Possibly my sentence structure may become less complex. What I'm trying to communicate, or the way that I communicate it, may also become less complex. I wanted to add that my way of experiencing age sliding is just my way of experiencing it. It is in no way the only way or anything like that. There are many different other ways that a person may age slide. So for example, a person could slide up in age. So instead of sliding younger, they could go older. A person may only identify at a certain age and then jump back and forth. So kind of like how Sarah jumped from age 5 to 16, then say if she was an age slider and she went back and forth between the two, maybe she just would go 6 or 16, no in between. For me, I can be any age in between, but not all age sliders can. Some age sliders will only go to a certain set ages. Some age sliders only slide like 1 or 2 years. So maybe a person slides between 12 and 14, or 19 and 21, or 50 and 52. This is no way a comprehensive on all the different ways that a person may age slide. In fact, feel free to comment down below if you would like to add other ways that people age slide that have not been mentioned. I'm also going to add in a special place here for littles. So what is a little? A little is a person in a system that identifies as younger than adults. So typically, most of the time when somebody refers to a little, usually they refer to a person under the age of 10 years old. But there is no, I've heard of littles being in their teens, from late teens to early teens into middle teens. So littles, I've come to really understand to be a reference to anybody under the age of what's considered adults. So littles in a system are usually, often, under the age of 10. Not always, but often. And I don't really know exactly why they're that age. There's a few different ideas. One is, I stated a little bit earlier, that perhaps trauma happened at that period of time. And so that when that altered state of consciousness formed, that's the age that they stay at. Another concept is that an alter is that age going back to a time that the body and the brain remembers being the freest and happiest. And so we think that's a lot of the case for some of us who are mixed in between. There's probably mixed in between. So as I say, it was the happiest times, it was the worst of times. So okay, you can cut that out. Okay. Maybe I should do that piece again. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay. Another concept, and this is more true in the case of, say, if you're a person who is over 20 or maybe even over 30 or older, and a new identity forms in your system due to something that you experienced. Because let's not forget, folks, that DID is a coping mechanism to deal and cope with trauma. And so I think that's very important to note here. And so in this case, if an alter is formed that is a little during a state of trauma, when the person is a full-grown adult but already a DID system, it could be because the brain is going back to a time that it remembers being the happiest and freest of all. So, or the happiest times, happiest memories, in order to cope with what's currently happening or going on. Those are the two theories that I'm most familiar with. I'm sure there are tons more out there that I'm not familiar with of other reasons why littles may exist in a DID system. So regardless, I think all of you guys are amazing and awesome and beautiful. Please don't stop being fantastically you. We love you guys. Mwah. Bye.